Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel.
And we are the Champ family.
This week's video is a cook with us. Grab yourself something good to eat or a delicious drink and enjoy the video. First, we're going to start out making strawberry cheesecake overnight oats,
Which is personally my favorite.
So first I just start out with these little 8-ounce Kerr jars. I got these from Walmart in a pack of 12. They're super convenient for anything, but especially for these. First, I'll start with some old-fashioned oats. I fill it up, I would say about 3/4 of the way with oats, maybe just a tiny bit less, because you still have to add your milk and everything else to it, so you don't want it overflowing whenever you open it, especially because my husband eats this on his way to work or on like a quick lunch break, so I don't want him to have a mess or to have to clean up anything. And of course I made a mess because it wouldn't be a cook with me if I didn't. So just fill these up, do it by eye. It's no strict measurements. They're super easy and you can't mess them up. So once you get the correct amount of oats in there, you want to add just a little bit of honey. I would say that this is probably a 1/2 of a teaspoon if I had to guess. I've made it so many times I don't even measure anymore. I just kind of put what I know that he likes. So I would suggest like a 1/2 teaspoon. This is just going to give you your little bit of sweetness. Now we have some sugar-free, the Jello brand cheesecake pudding mix. And I had about, I would say like a heaping teaspoon of this. I'm not sure how big this little spoon is that comes with this container. I got this container at the Dollar General like a while back, and I normally just do one of those heaping containers and then sprinkle in a little bit more if I feel like it's not enough, as you see here. So then next, I'm just going to add in a little bit of milk, and I always pour the milk slow because it seeps through the oats. I'm trying to explain this the best I can, but it seeps through the oats. So you want to make sure that it's completely getting there, so that way your overnight oats are not going to be extremely dry the next morning when you eat them, because the oat soaks up the milk. So you want a little bit of extra, so that way you have a little bit more of like an oatmeal consistency instead of just really dry oats. And then I'm just going to clean up my mess really quick, because it aggravates me to work in a dirty space. So I'm just going to clean up my mess really fast. That way we have a clean space to work in. And then once you have all those ingredients in there, I just take a spoon and I mix everything together really well, just because you don't want your honey to stick. You also put the pudding mix in there, so you just want to make sure that all those flavors and sweetness go through the whole thing, and you don't just have clump on top whenever you go to eat it the next morning. I just do a really good mix, make sure I get all the honey, nothing sticking to the sides, and that all the oats are submerged into the milk. And then once you have everything really mixed and combined really well, you just want to dice up a little bit of strawberries. These are frozen strawberries that I just thawed out in the microwave for about 10 seconds. They're still a little bit frozen, but they worked perfect. So I just sprinkle them on top. I know about how much my husband likes. He doesn't like an overloading amount of strawberries, but he likes a decent amount. So I just kind of eyeball it, and I put as much in there as I feel that he is going to like and eat. And like he said at the beginning of this video, this is literally his best breakfast. Like, he loves this breakfast. So and I make it every morning for work. So if you have not tried these strawberry cheesecake overnight oats, definitely do so. I highly recommend them, and so does he. And then once you have the strawberries on top, you want to cover them so that way they stay good with some type of an airtight lid. I got these little lids. It's a Mainstays brand from Walmart. It fits any wide mouth jar, and they are perfect. They don't leak. They don't do anything. I have like 2 or 3 sets of these. I think they come with 6 or 8 in a baggie at Walmart, but they're perfect. So just let these sit in the fridge overnight, and they're perfect. Next, we're making Mama's meatloaf. So my mama made 2 different types of meatloaf. She made a very sweet meatloaf, and then she also made a very savory meatloaf. Today, we like both of them, but today we're going to make the sweet meatloaf. This is definitely probably mine and my husband's favorite, but the savory one's not bad either. We just prefer this one, and this is what we had all the ingredients to make the night that I was making meatloaf. So in our bowl, I'm going to start with 1 pound of ground beef. It looks a little funny here because we get fresh butchered ground beef. So I have 1 pound here of the fresh ground beef. And then to this, I'm going to add in 2 eggs. And then after the eggs, I'm going to add in 1/4 of a cup of brown sugar. I'm going to add in a little bit of onion powder. I'm also going to add in some plain breadcrumbs. Once again, if you're making the savory, the Italian breadcrumbs are really good, but we're doing the sweet today. I'm going to add in salt and pepper to taste. This is completely up to you. And then, of course, I had to go back in with pepper because it just wasn't enough. And then you're going to use the best tools that God gave us, your hands, mix it all together. It's perfect for mixing anything, but it's definitely perfect for mixing meatloaf. I also put these gloves on because I can't handle the coldness of the meat, the eggs, everything like that. I just don't like it. And also everything is so squishy. I just can't handle it. So I use these gloves. As you can see, I was struggling a little bit with these ones. I got them from the dollar store and they were really cheap and the quality is not the best, but they kept my hands protected and I didn't have the mixture all over my hands, which was perfect. And with this, you just want to keep mixing and mixing and mixing until everything is really well combined. And then you want to take your sprayed loaf pan, just kind of form this into a little bit of what they would say or consider a loaf, and then plop it in your loaf pan and it's ready to be baked. We baked it at 375 for about 45 minutes. And when it's almost done, once the 45 minutes is over, you want to go ahead and make your topping. We're going to do about a cup of ketchup, and then I would say probably about another 1/4 of brown sugar. And then, sorry, I always mix this together and combine it together. And then once this is combined together really good, and I just make sure there's the right consistency on what I need. Like I said, I've made this so many times that I just kind of know what I need, and I very rarely measure anything. But I just like to mix this all together. And then once this is all combined really well, I also like to add a little bit of honey just for a little tiny bit of like a stickiness. And it's delicious with that. If you like a sticky texture, like a sticky wing or anything like that, just that little bit of honey does the same thing to the topping of the meatloaf. And then once everything's combined really well, you want to go ahead and put this on top and bake your meatloaf for another 15 to 20 minutes. Then it's perfect. This was a very cold day here in West Virginia, and just a warm meatloaf hit the spot so well. I also made like a cheesy broccoli rice to go with it, just something super simple. The meatloaf was simple, the rice was simple. It was just a very good, simple meal for a really cold day, and we both enjoyed this so much. I know a lot of people don't make meatloaf very often, but it is one of our favorites. And now we're going to make another fall staple, cinnamon apple oat crisp. So first I'm going to start by cutting up apples. As you can see here, I have two different apples. I have 3 of a Fuji apple and then 3 of a really big apple. I believe they're called a Johnson apple. We get them from the farmer's market and they're really good and they are really big. So it is a very big apple, but they're delicious. As you can see, I had like a little bit of a bad spot on that apple, so I just cut it off. I know that the brown doesn't necessarily hurt anything or hurt you. I just don't want to eat it, so I just cut it off. And then I'm also cutting out the core. That way you don't have any hard pieces or anything. And then once I do that, I just chop everything up into really bite-sized pieces. Once you have your apples cut up into bite-sized pieces, you just want to clean up your station that you're working in. That way it's not a mess. You want to add some sugar and some cinnamon to your apples and just make sure that it's to taste as what you and your family want. Add as much as you need or as little as you need. If you don't like it to be really sweet, don't add as much sugar. And then you want to dump those into the bottom of a sprayed 9x13 and just make sure that they're evenly spread. Then you want to take about 2 cups of your old-fashioned oats. You also want to take 1/4 cup of butter, some brown sugar, some regular sugar, and then I'll also add a little bit of cinnamon to this as well. And you just want to mix this until you get the consistency that you like. I also needed to add like another 1/2 stick of butter to this because I just was not getting the consistency that I normally get. I also added just a little bit of flour so I get a little bit more of a cakier topping instead of just so oaty. And then you want to add that right on top of the apples and just make sure that it's spread evenly. You want to bake this at 375 for about 55 minutes. We had that for dessert this night and it was delicious. Now we're getting right on into making banana bread. This is something that we love to have all the time. I make a lot and put it in our freezer, but we was completely out, so it was time to make more, and we had just enough bananas to do it, and they were extremely ripe, so it was perfect. It was a little bit hard peeling these peels off of the bananas because they were so soft, but it absolutely made the best bread, so I'm not even upset that it took a little bit longer to peel them than normal. I know that this is a potato masher, but it works really good just to mash up your bananas a tiny bit before you go in with the whisk and add all the ingredients together. So I think it's the perfect tool for mashing up bananas as well as potatoes. Then once you have your bananas mashed to your liking, you want to add in a little bit of melted butter. I did about 1/4 cup. I like to combine everything together with this recipe instead of just dumping it all in there. So I add an ingredient and then mix it, add an ingredient and then mix it. That's just what I prefer to do, but you do exactly what you want to do. It doesn't matter. I don't believe either way. And then I added in a cup of sugar, and this is just the white granulated sugar. I mixed this all in really good as well. And then once I have that combined, I add in 1/8 teaspoon of baking powder. And then I'll also add in about 1/8 teaspoon of salt as well. Then you want to do just a little splash. I would say probably 1/4 teaspoon of your vanilla extract. And then you want to add in 1 egg that has been beaten. And just mix that in there really well. I also almost forgot to add a little bit of cinnamon, so I'm going to add that at this point. I completely forgot to get it out of the cabinet whenever I was getting out all the ingredients for this, so I'm glad that I didn't forget it because it would not have been near as good. I'm sure it would have been fine, just not near as good as what we like. And then once you have all those ingredients mixed together, you want to combine slowly 1.5 cups of just regular all-purpose flour. I add a little bit and then mix, and then I add a little bit more and mix just so the consistency is very smooth. It's not lumpy and clumpy. So you do this however you want, but this is just how I decided to do it, and it seems to work really good for me. And then once you have all of your ingredients combined really well, you want to just dump this bread mixture into your loaf pan, whatever loaf pan you decide to use. These just happen to be my favorite. My husband got these for me for Christmas about 3 or 4 years ago, I believe, and they are very well used and I love them so much. After you get everything in your loaf pan, I just like to even it out, make sure that it is completely even so it's going to bake evenly. And then I baked this at 350 for 55 minutes and it turned out perfect. It had the best color to it whenever it came out of the oven, and it was so delicious. Whenever we got done with this, whenever we got done with dinner, I cut us a piece and put a little bit of butter on it, and it was so good. We just got home from work, so we're going to make a very easy dinner. We're having pizza pasta. So in this bowl here, I have a little bit of veggie pasta, and I just took a little bit of Prego and I put that on top, just your traditional Prego. You are more than welcome to use marinara, but we are just using what we had on hand this night. So Prego was what we had, and that's what we decided to use. Once I have the veggie pasta flattened out and nice and even in my little pan here, I'm just going to put a little bit of mozzarella right on top of the noodles. And then I'm going to add a little bit of mild cheddar on top of that. And once again, this is something that you make completely up to yourself. Whatever you enjoy on your pizza, you just put on top of this, and it is so delicious without all the guilt. I'm going to add in here veggies of my choice, which is green peppers and mushrooms. And I made a lot of them because I really, really, really enjoy them on my pizza. And I knew that this was just going to take it over the top and it was going to be so good. But if you like olives, onions, anything like that, add that to the top as well. I'm sure that it would be so very delicious as well. This is completely a make it your own, and it is just like pizza in my opinion, but less guilt, and I use the veggie pasta, so I'm getting an extra veggie in there. Then I'm going to add a little bit of Parmesan cheese on top of that, just to kind of hold the veggies in place. When the cheese melts, it's just gonna kind of be all ooey gooey together. And then I'm going to top it off with a little bit of pepperoni. And at first I was just going to do a little bit, but then I decided that I was going to cover the whole top in pepperoni. And I'm so glad that I did, because it just gave it that extra little taste that I think that it would have been missing if I wouldn't have put a bunch on there. So once again, like, this is completely your choice. If you wanted to use sausage, you could put sausage on there. Anything that you like. If you're a meat lovers, you could do sausage and bacon in pepperonis. You can literally make this any way that you want. It was so good, and I highly recommend if you are having a really late dinner or anything like that and you just need something very quickly, make this. It was delicious. And then I'm just going to, on the top here, I'm going to top it off again with a bunch of mozzarella because I want this to be like an extra cheesy pizza, and I just made sure to cover the pepperoni so that way they didn't get burnt. This was so good. I still want this to this day. I baked it for about 20 minutes and it was literally perfect. If you have not made this before, I definitely recommend it. It was so easy, so quick, and so delicious. I will definitely be recommending this to all of my family to make for a very quick dinner once they get home from work. I really wanted to share this verse with you guys that I read today. It says, "Grace and peace to you from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ, who gave himself for our sins to rescue us from the present evil age, according to the will of our God and our Father, to whom be glory forever and ever. Amen." Thank you all so much for watching. Before you leave, please like and subscribe.
And stick around and see what we try next.
We'll see you in the next video.